everyone. My name is Marisa Stone with Simon Says Social and the Systems Lounge, and I want to welcome you today to the 2017 Business Systems Virtual Summit, where you learn all the systems that our speakers use to get stuff done. And I am super, super excited today to have Johanna Walker here with us. And the reason that I'm excited about this is because she's going to talk to us about getting your business out of your brain and onto the wall. And those of you that know me know I'm the techie guru. So I'm really, really interested in how she has turned this around and put it in a space in her physical office where she's utilizing it in order to get her stuff done. So let me tell you a little bit about Johanna. She is the fear-blasting storytelling maven for entrepreneurs and people on a mission, also known as a public speaking coach. She's the founder and CEO of Get Real Public Speaking, where she helps coaches, consultants, and passionate change makers put their powerful stories and from the heart voices out front so they can have more impact, reach the clients that they're meant to serve, and change the world in both big and small ways. Johanna is the co-producer and co-host of Boulder's popular bi-monthly Story Slam series, Truth Be Told, where audience members come to the stage and they tell their true stories from the heart. She's given talks and presented originally scripted solo theater shows at the Boulder Fringe Festival and at festivals and conferences around the U.S. and Canada. She's worked with diverse audiences such as adolescent girls, incarcerated women, fledgling entrepreneurs, and corporate executives, over and over again witnessing the transformative power of real-world people telling their stories and speaking their truths. And today, Johanna is going to share her system for getting all this done. Johanna, welcome to the 2017 Business Systems Virtual Summit. I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So let me just wrap my brain around this, okay? So you mentioned that the best system for you is actually an offline system. So in a world where more and more gadgets, and there's always an app for that, and there's always a new piece of technology to accomplish that goal, you actually use an offline system. So tell us about this and how and why it works for you.
Well, I feel like I tried every app possible, and
Yeah.
I always kind of started off with a bang, and then it just got lost in my computer, and somehow I couldn't keep up with it. And for me, I'm finding more and more in my life that the more I get off the screen and off the computer, the happier I am.
Nice.
And the more connected I am to myself and my life and the world. And so I started just putting I started just putting a big piece of paper on the wall, and I do a brain dump and I make my list on the wall. And what works about that is it doesn't get lost in my computer.
Right.
When I was using apps, I had to remember to open them up.
Right.
I had to remember to open up the software and look at the list, and I would just not do that.
Yeah.
And so, and then it would all just get lost, and I'd have to go reorient myself and catch up, and I was always behind. And I find that when I put everything on the wall, it's in front of me, and I stand in front of it and I look at it every day because it's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there in my space. And I also just like paper and pen.
Yes.
And for me, that makes me feel more connected to the things, the list. And it
looks like this is a very massive statement for you. So instead of having this in 50,000 notebooks that are going to also get buried under a pile of something somewhere, this is, you can see it in the background behind you. This is on your wall, so it's in your face every day.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is, I actually kind of like that.
Yeah. So I know it's kind of retro. It's like backwards.
It's a little retro, but it's also very cool, And I'm a firm believer in the system that is going to work for you is the one that you're going to use.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how many pieces of technology I teach you to use. If you're not going to use them, then they're useless, right? Yeah. It's like a carpenter choosing a hammer versus what's the power tool that the power gun or whatever you call that. I'm not a carpenter. So it's really the tool that you're going to use. And this is something that you have decided, this is what works for me. And I love that. I love it when an entrepreneur knows this is the system that works. This is the one I'm going to go with. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So you talk about getting your business out of your brain and onto the wall. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, I mean that, and it's also out of your computer and onto the wall. And for me, when the computer apps weren't working, I tended to just keep the lists in my head. And I thought, it was like, okay, they're all in my head because for some reason I'm not opening. It was too complicated for me to figure out how everything worked and how to keep up with it. So things were in my head. So for me, it was like, get it out of my head and onto the wall. Yeah. And always starting with a brain dump of just like write down everything, the big things, the little things, the noodly things, anything that is occupying space in my brain and something that needs to be done, I throw it on the wall. And then it's out of my brain. I can look at it in one big, it's all right there.
There, yeah.
All right there in front of me, there it is. And then I can figure out what I'm going to do with it. And I move it around. As you can see, over there, then I have, and I kind of am able to move things around.
Right.
Based on, I use different colors for different categories.
Yeah.
And it helps me see it. Then I can see it. I'm looking at it. I'm very visual. I'm an artist. My background is that I'm an artist, and I'm very visual, and I like to see things, and that has really helped me make it tangible.
Yeah. And I like the way that not only are you using like the large chart paper, but you're also then breaking that down using little Post-it notes or little tags or whatever it is you need in order to categorize and keep it all together.
Yeah.
That's really cool too. Yeah. So talk to us about what a brain dump is. I'm not sure a lot of the audience knows what that is.
Well, it's as I said, just unloading. It's not, when I'm doing the brain dump, I'm not thinking about how this is going to get done or when it's going to get done or which thing is more. I'm not thinking about prioritizing. I'm not thinking about, big picture versus urgent task.
Right.
I'm not thinking about, whether I'm going to do it or I'm going to get somebody else to do it. I'm thinking about everything that is just piling up in my brain, all the things that are there. And I dump it. I make the list without any kind of editing, without any kind of judging, without any organizing. I just dump it. And then it's in front of me. It's out of my brain. It's in front of me. And then I can start to look at priorities and look at like, which is the big picture thing, which is the tiny task, which is the thing I'm going to get help with, which is the thing I'm going to say, nope, not this year.
Right.
Put it aside. And for me, it's like when it's out of my brain onto the wall, then I can see it and say, you know what? I'm not going to get to that this week or this month or this year, and move it aside.
Right. So you say that you do that on one sheet of paper a day. Now, is that a big piece of chart paper, or do you use like just a regular piece of notebook paper? Like how exactly do you accomplish that? I mean, because I would think that some days you probably have a whole gigantic list of things, and other days maybe you only have a couple of things that you're really kind of pondering. How does that work exactly?
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily start a new brain dump every day.
Okay.
What I meant when I shared that with you was just that I look at it every day. So usually every week, I start a week with a new brain dump, and then I look at it every day. I might add some things, there might be some new things that I add, or I cross things off, I move them around, but I check in with the brain dump every day.
Okay.
Check in with it.
Okay. And that keeps you on task. That keeps you focused on what your original ideas and goals were so that you can actually accomplish them.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that a lot.
And then it's usually, 1 or 2 weeks, and then I'll rip the paper down, put a new one up, and just start fresh.
Right.
And a lot of the same stuff gets moved over, but for me, it keeps it front of mind. To have to write it down again, it keeps it front of mind. It keeps it like, okay, this is still important.
Yeah.
This is still something I want to put my attention towards.
It also kind of, I would think, keeps you a little bit flexible. So if you put something in one project and it really belongs over here in this one, by updating this on a regular basis, you are continuing to move forward while reorganizing how things are falling into place.
Yes.
Because, one of the things that we're learning in this summit is, flexibility is key.
Yes.
It's really, really important, So So let's talk about using the chart paper to kind of track these really large projects. So I can sort of imagine in my mind what it might look like, but what does it look like for you? What are some ways that we can apply what you're doing?
Well, that might be, that feels a little bit, that might be something we want to get into a little bit in more detail when
in the next interview. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. So let's talk a little bit about, all right. So you create this brain dump on a regular basis. How do you break that brain dump down into like just your daily tasks? Like what does that look like to have just, you've got all this stuff in front of you. How do you kind of narrow it down to what you need to do today?
Well, I do two different things. So one is I take what's on the brain dump and I sort of go from two different directions. I go from the big view direction and from the daily urgent task or the things I need to do right away direction.
Gotcha.
So the first thing I do the first thing I do is I look at 3 things that I need to do today. Okay. And I say 3 tasks, no fail. And it's like the 3 things that I know I'm going to succeed at, that I need to get done. Like, what's the most important thing? I pick the 3 things that, boom, no matter what, I'm going to finish those 3 things today.
Nice.
And I pull those 3 things out. And it doesn't mean I'm only going to do those 3 things.
Right.
But I know those 3 things are the things that I got to do today.
Right.
And then looking at the big view is I look at the list and I pull out the projects. Like I do some corporate speaking, some business corporate speaking. So what is connected to the corporate speaking? Right. I host a retreat for entrepreneurs who are wanting to craft to talk for speaking. It's a retreat in mastermind and a pretty deep dive. And I'm getting ready for that this fall. So anything that is tied to that,
right,
I put in one category.
Yeah.
Then I have an event that I produce here in Boulder. Anything that's tied to that, I put in there. So then I divide it up project-wise so that I can look and see where all the little tasks fit in. And then it's easier I feel a lot less overwhelmed because everything is kind of moved around and what it's connected to. And then I start to go back in and say, something that needs to be done down the road, I got to pull to the front, right. Because I don't want to get caught up. It's great to have those 3 tasks that I do daily, that I highlight daily. Got to do these 3 things today. But then I also always want to have the long view picture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, okay. So these 3 tasks, they could actually be from a number of different projects, not necessarily all the same project.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's really all about what's your goal and what's your deadline and what do I need to accomplish today and what can I accomplish today? And one of the things that I'm kind of hearing in what you're saying is you're also setting yourself up for a daily success because you've accomplished at least those 3 things. If the whole day falls apart and don't get anything else done, you've gotten those 3 things done. And for entrepreneurs, when we're only accountable to ourselves, that can mean a lot, right?
Yeah, and it helps me because it's easy to sit down, and certainly there are days where this happens.
Right.
Where to sit down, it's like, oh, I just dive right into the computer and I start like racing through all the things I think I got to do. Right. But when I pause, when I remember to sit down and check in with the list and actually decide what those 3 things are, it changes my whole day.
Yeah.
Because then I'm connecting, I'm checking in with myself, I'm looking at the big picture, I'm actually seeing everything,
right,
and then making some more conscious, intentional choices about what I want to do today, rather than just like coming to the computer, dive in, and just like, oh, what did I do today?
Right, right. In a frenzy.
Hours are not even really accomplished because there's so much of that little noodly stuff that can consume our attention.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally love that. So you mentioned that you had a monthly, a yearly, I guess a daily, a monthly, and a yearly calendar. How does this fit into your brain dump and your business on the wall? And
Yeah.
how does all of that help you to stay on track? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I have the monthly calendar, all the month, and I'm sorry I don't have it with me right now. I
That's
actually took
okay.
it down to go, but because I was working with somebody, so I brought the calendar to go look at the calendar with them. But
Right.
I have just all the months up on the calendar, so I can see, I can write down and again, see in front of me. Like, it's great to have the calendar on the computer, and I certainly do use that because I'm out in the world adding stuff to my computer.
Right.
But I come in and I see the whole year in front of me, and I can put my big events and like, oh, okay, if this is here, I got to have these emails out here, and I got to do this webinar here, and I can kind of map out the whole year again in a really visual way. When I can see the whole year,
Right.
it's just so much easier for me to get a sense of how everything fits together and when stuff needs to happen.
Right. I would imagine that also helps you to work backwards from the date. So you said you had a retreat coming up.
Yeah.
You know the date of the days of that retreat, and so you can work backwards to make sure that you're getting all the components in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can see it. It's all right there.
Yes, and for me, just to be able to look at the whole year is so satisfying.
Right, right. And you could also, I would assume, be able to see all the things, in your face that you've already accomplished.
Right.
Because your calendar has all of those on it too. And so I think that's one of the areas that I probably don't do the best job, is actually revisiting what I've accomplished, right? And celebrating those little things, because I do a ton of stuff,
Yeah.
So being able to go back and look at that and say, wow, look how far you've come. I think this is also a tool that you can use for that, or at least I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's another part of my daily practice, is that's actually when I do the 3 goals, the 3 steps, no fail.
Yeah.
I also do 3 accomplishments, like 3 things I completed yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm always being able to celebrate the wins, set intentions for the day, and keep it really simple. Like, it doesn't have to be,
right.
I climbed a mountain.
Right. Baby steps sometimes.
Baby steps. But baby steps really, you get up the mountain step by step. And so it's really deciding which steps you want to take, and then acknowledging the steps you did take.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. So I know we are coming to the end of this interview, but before we go, is there anything else that we need to know about just getting our business out of our brain and onto the wall in some sort of visual format?
I think just give it a try. I mean, if any of the online stuff isn't working for you, give it a try, see what happens. And, and have, as you said, what works for you is what works best.
Right.
And I think always to have compassion and curiosity, and that systems change and grow, and we're always learning and growing and changing. So to have some flexibility inside the system and inside yourself to be able to change as you're, change and grow as you're working and as you're learning and as your business grows and changes.
Yeah. And it's okay to evolve. I think that's one of the big aha lessons that I've learned since I've been doing this and become an entrepreneur, is that, you're not supposed to stay stagnant. It's okay to allow yourself those reaches and those stretches and trying new and different things in order to help yourself to grow. And this is one of those things that, I could see benefit in using this for myself, even though I'm the high-tech person and I try not to have any paper in my office if I can help it. This could totally be something that I could do to really put it up on my wall and be able to look at it every day. And I can totally see the benefit there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool. So before we let you go, how can people reach out to you if they want to maybe, touch base with you, ask you questions, access some of your resources, perhaps work with you, come to your retreat, which sounds really cool. How can they reach out to you?
My website is johannawalker.com.
Okay.
You're welcome to shoot me an email, jw@johannawalker.com. I love just engaging with folks, hearing what's up.
Nice.
And happy to be a resource for people, both, thinking about this analog way of tracking things, and also certainly speaking, and if you want to use speaking to grow your business.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Guys, definitely take advantage of what Johanna is offering today. There's also a link below this interview where you can click on a freebie that she is offering to the crowd today. So definitely take advantage of that. Reach out to her and, talk with her about public speaking, really getting your own story up and running. And also figure out your own system for getting stuff done. That is super, super important in an entrepreneurial world where only you are responsible for you and what you accomplish. For those of you that are part of the All Access Pass, stick around because we are going to dive much, much deeper with Johanna in just a little bit. So definitely hang out with us. Johanna, thank you so much for being here. And guys, we will see you in the next interview. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.